The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on this segment of the morning show is Mrs. Mary Vogt. She is the superintendent of Bement Schools. Mrs. Vogt, welcome. How are you this morning?
Great, Seth. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for asking, and thanks for making time for us as always. And Mrs. Vogt, I know that I get to talk to you this morning about a program that a lot of schools participate in, but to be honest with you, it's kind of a very specific type of student that are a part of this program. It's through, if I'm not mistaken, Richland Community College. And in fact, I think I know the director of that program. Is that Brett? Doggone it, I'm blanking on.
Yes, Brett Hitchings.
Hitchings, yes.
At Richland. And then we have Nick Elder, who is the director at Parkland. So Bement is in a unique just geographical location in that, as a district, we partner with Parkland, but upon graduation, some of our students do go to Richland. So both community colleges have what are called like education to career pathways. And there are a variety of career fields where they offer classes to high school students. So then as a high school student, those who are interested can gain college credit. Some, like in particular, a CNA, certified nurse's assistant. I know we've had some students who have graduated with a CNA certificate along with their high school diploma because they were able to take those CNA classes as high school students. There are automotive technology classes available for high schoolers, computer programming, construction trades, criminal justice, and then a newer one at Parkland. And I have a meeting actually coming up next week where Brett will be there from Richland, and I wanted to ask him about, but I know this new one at Parkland is the education pathway, where it helps high school students take classes that will lead to an eventual teacher certificate. So they could graduate from high school with 12 college credit hours for those beginning teacher courses. And so I'm sure you have heard about the teacher shortage that we are experiencing. So I feel like this is something that right now in Bement, we have one student who is enrolled in the education pathway. And it's something that in talking with Nick Elder, I feel like as a superintendent, I can allocate some of my federal grant funds to help offset the cost for those students so that they could, again, potentially graduate from high school with 12 college credit hours and be able to jump into a teacher certification program.
So how does that work, Mrs. Vogt, in terms of balancing, what they need for high school? Is it like, it's dual credit, you said? Is that how that works?
It is. And so the young man who we have currently in the program, he starts his day every day at Parkland and taking classes there. And then when he's done with his classes at Parkland, he returns to Bement High School and is able to finish his required courses for graduation. Now, on Fridays, he does not have the class in Parkland because he works with our second grade teacher and is getting classroom experience in the second grade classroom. So very hands-on, very applicable. And I was talking with a couple of other people about it from the community, and one made a good point. They're like, well, if we're paying for this and we're encouraging it, it doesn't mean that they'll come back and teach at Bement. That's 100% true. But if we can add to the number of people who enter the teaching career path, that just benefits every district because we are in a sense, building our reserves again.
Well, and the thing about it, Mrs. Vogt, is not only is there a teacher shortage, there's a skilled labor shortage. So this is a good opportunity for kids to, really, especially if they can understand in when they get into high school or shortly thereafter, if they can develop that understanding of, I have a skill. It may not be I may not be suited for 4 years of college after high school, or,
Right.
I just don't know what I want to do, and learn maybe a skill or two through, some, I don't want to say home ec classes, but through some like trades types of classes
Yeah.
within the school, develop, that understanding of, oh, I've got this skill, and then, develop that, further develop that understanding of, oh, wow, there's a lot of money to be made doing this, and there's a shortage, so I can just get that certificate, and bam, I'm 20 years old in the workforce, and making a good amount of money while I'm at it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think of two former students in Monticello in particular. One was so skilled in welding, and at the senior night, when they award scholarships, he received so many scholarships for going into the trades, and is currently working out west. I ran into his mom. He is absolutely loving his life, loving what he is doing. There's another Monticello graduate I think of, who immediately after high school started working towards being a member of the pipe fitters union.
Mm-hmm.
At 22 years old, has been able to buy his own house and has no debt.
Yeah,
And
man.
it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And my very first day here with students, there was an assembly with the high school students, and Mr. Kepley introduced me to them, and I tried to, give that little motivational pump them up, and hey, I'm excited to be here. And I shared with them what I have shared with my daughters. My expectation for them upon graduation was that they be positive, productive members of society. So whether that looks like going straight into the workforce, going to a trade school, attending a 2-year college, a 4-year college, whatever it looks like for them to be a positive, productive member of society, I would support.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes for students, like you said, some just don't know what they want to do, and that's okay. But you need to graduate and have a plan. Are you going to get a job? No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Vogt. I didn't mean to cut you off. Who are the students from Monticello that you're talking about? Those scenarios are ringing a bell for students I may know.
One is Cole Reedy,
mm-hmm.
and the other is Alex, and his mom is Alex Orberson. I had to think of his mom's name to come up with his last name, but yeah, Alex Orberson. He's the one who's working out west and has the skills with welding.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. So
Cole,
Cole's been out of school for a few years now, right? Like maybe 5.
Cole, I believe, just graduated in 2019.
Oh, did he graduate in 19? Okay, gotcha. Very good. Well, Mrs. Vogt, it's interesting. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone this morning. This conversation is such a good one, and I, to kind of maybe take it a step further into the, the philosophical approach to education in our world today, particularly in American education. I remember back when I was in school, and it wasn't that long ago, it was it felt like, at least, the message was graduate high school, go do 4 years of college, get a job, but I feel like that message is not, that's such a like one size fits all approach. Whereas I feel like education needs to be, okay, what are you good at? I don't even think it's about what do you like to do. It's about what are you good at as far as a skill. And it has to be a marketable skill. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we were, I don't know how much we are anymore, because obviously I'm out of school, but I felt like we were at a point where it was like, okay, what do you like to do? Talk to me about what you're good at. But it wasn't an approach to the marketability of what you're good at. It was just, what are you good at? Does that make any sense at all?
It does. And those like interest surveys that you take, and it tells you, oh, here's a career that might be good for you. but then what do you do with that? So if that's a career that might be good for you and you're interested in it, well, then what are the next steps? How do you achieve that goal? And I feel like that is the piece that we haven't really provided for our students. Just if this, and quite honestly, if you want to be a doctor, you want to be a surgeon, well, you need to know it's going to take you years of college.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a matter of, hey, I want to be a doctor, and then it happens. So I think providing students with an opportunity to really learn and decide what could my path be after high school,
Mm-hmm.
and what steps do I need to take to accomplish that goal. I
Well,
think we caught up in like right now the state has passed new legislation that 2 years of a foreign language are required to graduate from high school. So we're working on implementing that. And Seth, honestly, I'm sure you can think of some people who you went to school with. 2 years of a foreign language would serve them no purpose upon graduating high school.
Mm-hmm.
But now this is a requirement that we have to implement.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I think I've mentioned to you before, I could get on a soapbox and give all of my opinions about the things that we're required to do.
And that's just another avenue in this conversation of, you're here, your mission is to get students through high school, help them become productive members of society. And you've got all this regulation bearing down from government on what you have to teach them, how much they have to spend time on a piece of curriculum, and this and that. Whereas if there was more local control, you could say, okay, we should probably have, like the demographics of our community would suggest we probably need to focus more on kids going into trades, or kids going into, certain, types of professions, or, like that local control piece really would probably better suit a district rather than just a heavy-handed approach from government, if that makes any sense.
And where are we going to find all of these people who can teach the foreign languages?
Mm-hmm.
It's unrealistic. And part of my passion about that is my oldest daughter had taken a foreign language in high school. Now at Purdue, she's required to take 2 more years. Seth, they offer American Sign Language as one of their foreign languages. Macy is dyslexic. Taking a traditional foreign language does not work well with her learning.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to take American Sign Language that is very visual, she's quite successful in it. And so I think, if we could be creative with some of these requirements, but again, where do you find the people who can actually teach the classes that legislators are requiring?
And oftentimes the time in the school day, much less, you know what I mean? But so Mrs. Vogt, just to kind of return back to the basics of this conversation and not even consider the fact of, government regulation and the challenges that presents itself. What about students that, maybe they used to fall through the cracks in terms of they don't know what they want to do, and they're already kind of apathetic towards school as it is, maybe on the fringe of pass fail, maybe on the fringe of, truancy with attendance and things of that nature. How do you reach those kids and try to instill a level of understanding of, okay, I understand school is not where your strength is at, and that is perfectly okay. There are tons and tons of people out there that fall in that category. How do you reach them and try to help them find something that they could be good at in the workforce, and and try to get them onto a path that is, again, the goal of schools, become a productive member of society? How about that?
So my mind just went 3 different directions as you were asking that question. So
Well,
first of all,
I'll tell you what, then let's take a time out, because I need a break, and I'm already over for a break anyways. So let's take the time out and maybe dive into that when we come back. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone. More with her on the way on the morning show. WHOW.
connected.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn higher, beans lower. Chicago wheat also lower at this hour. December corn 6.39 1/4, up 7 1/4. March corn up 6 1/4, 6.48 3/4. May corn up 5 1/2, 6.49 3/4. January beans 14.82, down 4 1/4. March beans down 3 3/4, 14.86 1/2. May beans 14.92, down 3 3/4. December Chicago wheat 7.24 1/4, down 2 3/4. March wheat down 4 1/4, 7.42. January bean meal 471.30, that's up 4.90. January bean oil down 88 cents, 60.43. Livestock market, January feeders up $1.02, 184.50. December live cattle 153.20, up 77 cents. December lean hogs 81.57, down 42 cents. In the energy market, January crude oil up half a dollar, 71.96. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
Merry Christmas from all of us here at Love It Once More Thrift Store in Clinton. This is Connie letting you know that from December 1st through the 23rd, our whole store will be on sale because your total purchase will be 10% off. Remember to check us out on Facebook or DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is Ryan Utterback with Utterback Real Estate in Clinton. We are thankful for all the families we were able to serve this past year.
And this is Ryan Dalton wishing you happy holidays and looking forward to serving even more families in 2023.
Learn how Utterback Real Estate in Clinton can serve you by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
CEO Paul Scourin here from Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. We're proud to be the title sponsor of WEZC's Sounds of the Season nonstop Christmas music, December 24th and 25th for the 8th consecutive year. Tune your radio to WEZC 95.9 from noon Christmas Eve through midnight on Christmas Day, as many of our staff wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. My guest on the phone this morning is Mrs. Mary Vogt. She is the superintendent of Bement Schools. And Mrs. Vogt, a conversation that started talking about your connections with Richland and Parkland colleges, particularly as it relates to getting students a head start on getting into a skilled profession, a trade profession. Those things turned into a really, really good conversation. And so for folks at home, let me re-ask the question that we left off before the break, because you mentioned you had about a three-tiered avenue that you wanted to take this question with. So we were talking about, helping kids develop skills to get into, the next phase of life and get a head start in that. How do you reach, Mrs. Vogt, those students that, like I mentioned, maybe they've got attendance issues, grades issues, they're just not passionate about school. There's a lot of those kids out there, there's many, many of them. And how do you not let them fall through the cracks, connect with them and help them, develop an understanding of what their skills are, the fact that maybe they're not good at school, but there is something for them in the world after high school? Talk to me about that.
Sure. So I feel like part of our responsibility as educators is guiding students in a direction that they're not even aware of. And one thing I immediately thought of through the Macon Pyatt ROE 39, they are putting our school districts in Macon and Pyatt counties in connection with the Decatur Chamber of Commerce. And what the Decatur Chamber of Commerce is willing to do is come to the schools that have scheduled days where they come to the schools, and not like, a job fair, but to sit down with students and say, here are some of the jobs available, and now here are the steps for you to take in order to apply for those jobs and really help be, like a job coach for after high school. So in that opportunity, I contacted our guidance counselors and high school principal and said, can any of you serve as a liaison between Bement Schools and the Decatur Chamber of Commerce? I got a response back from Donna Sharp, one of our guidance counselors, saying, well, here is what each of our seniors are planning on doing after graduation. So this year, it's not necessary for them to come out, but we would like to continue doing that. Seth, I have a guidance counselor who knows what each child is planning to do after high school. How amazing is that?
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That is great.
So then in that question about how do we keep kids from falling through the cracks, I have written on my bulletin board the power of hello. And this is something I have focused on since I started here. I'm the kind of person, when I taught middle school and I had 130 students every day, I knew every single child's first and last name by Labor Day. It's important to me that a child knows that I know who they are and that I see them. Well, coming here, I thought, I'm going to learn all these kids and I'm going to learn it right away. Well, I'm almost 50, Seth, and it just doesn't come as easily as it used to. But that power of hello, so not only students, but also staff, because this is a whole brand new staff for me too, making sure that when I am seeing somebody in a classroom, in the hallway, outside, making eye contact and saying hello. Mm-hmm. And if you have that name down, also using the person's name. Mm-hmm. As a superintendent, this is blowing my mind. I have some kids who will stop by just because they just want to chat for a few minutes. I don't think it's because they just want out of class, but just they recognize that I see them.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. It's amazing when you connect with someone. Maybe they lack a connection, whether it's at home, whether it's just in school. When you can make a connection with someone, particularly someone of your status, that is so meaningful, I feel like, and just goes a long way with that person.
Yes. Sure. And so to me, that's the long and short of it.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Vogt, I don't mean to do this to you. I hate to cut us off here. This is a great conversation. I'm sure there's many more avenues we can come up with and perhaps dive into down the road, but it's always good to have you. Happy holidays, and we'll talk to you next year.
Thank you.
Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools, on the phone with us. Network News is now.
WHOW.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W220.